Good. So let me start by thanking you all for your time and welcoming you to this event. This is a first for the joint undertaking, but as you'll see, there's a lot of things we do for the first time. I'm going to spend a little time taking you through what the joint undertaking is, giving you some background, and then you'll see we'll have more detailed presentations on what we actually do throughout the presentation. I'm Anders Jensen. I'm fortunate enough to be the executive director of EuroHPC, and I want to start by just setting the scene for who we actually are, because I do realize there's probably a number of you that have limited knowledge of the background of EuroHPC. So EuroHPC is an EU entity, an EU body, and we are joint undertaking. And I'll get back to what that means. It's a special vehicle, a special type of body. EuroHPC was actually created all the way back in 2018 by the European Commission, and with the intention of setting up EuroHPC as we know it today as an EU body. But what we're going to be talking about today essentially started as we became autonomous in September 2020. That was when we moved into the offices in the building you see on the left. EuroHPC is growing, but we do not control the whole building. We have half a floor in one of those wings. So just to put things into perspective, but we are fortunate enough to be co-located with some other commission services. We're based in Luxembourg, so EuroHPC is our offices are here in Luxembourg, whilst what we do, of course, is across Europe. At this point in time, we're about 30 employees, and I say about because it's all about who has actually joined the process of recruiting. And we are in constant process of recruiting, and we will continue throughout this year. We aim to recruit another 20 people in 2023. So back to who we are and why we exist. The joint undertaking was created by the Commission and member states out of the realization that Europe had fallen behind the parts of the world that we normally wish to compare ourselves to in the area of supercomputing. And this was at large. It was not only the availability of supercomputing capacity to scientists and for that matter the European citizen at large that was where we were falling apart. We're falling behind. It's also on the technologies, the delivery of technologies, the supply chain for HPC, where we are relying very much on companies and services from outside of Europe to provide HPC. And the joint undertaking, one of our missions is very much to address this, as we'll get back to. And then we need to, we also are lacking people who actually knows how to use supercomputers and how to get the advantage of it. So in a very condensed form, the joint undertaking has three main missions. One is to build up infrastructure across Europe and make that available to scientists, but also to SMEs like yourselves, which is why we're having this day or this event. At the same time, we wish to strengthen the European supply chain. So we do a number of research and innovation actions where European companies and researchers work together to develop technologies, and I'll get more into that as well, and there'll be presentations on that. And then finally, we have a number of actions in and around training and skills for HPC. Now, you will also see quantum. Quantum was added to the mission of EuroHPC when our regulation was revised in 21. And so all the things we have been doing and that we do for HPC, you will see us also doing for quantum, meaning that we are currently investing in quantum infrastructure, and we aim to make that available to scientists and, for that matter, SMEs when these machines come online. And equally, we are starting initiatives to also augment the skill sets on quantum. So in the joint undertaking, we very much see quantum and traditional supercomputers go hand in hand. We see the quantum computers being basically a useful accelerator to certain problems on HPC. So back to joint. So we're a joint undertaking, and what that means is that we have a large number of partners, and every time we do something, we do it jointly in partnership. So we have, should actually say 33 participating countries, and we have the European Union, and then we have 3 private partners. So essentially, on our governing board, you have representatives of all of these, and what we get is that we do actions jointly. So we have a budget from the European Union, which we'll go back to, that funds usually half of what we do, and then we have other parties. It will usually be participating states that funds the other part. So, for instance, when we go out and procure a machine, and the latest one that we're doing now is in Jülich, where we are that has been selected to host Europe's first exascale machine. Well, the joint undertaking, or the European Union, will fund half of it, and Germany in that case will fund the other half. And really the choice of a joint undertaking is exactly to be able to pool resources from these partners together in initiatives, because the idea being that very few countries would be able to afford the infrastructure that we are able to procure on their own. But by joining forces, we all get so much more. And I think it's not a surprise to anyone that if you spend double the amount of money on a computer, you get much more than double the capacity. So it's really economy of scale, and it produces win-wins. We have the 3 private partners in there, as they provide the input from industry to us about what is helpful for the supply chain, how should we evolve the program, and how can we best support the supply chain. Their members will usually be part of some of our research projects, which we will get back to. The 3 members, Big Data Value Association, looking at the data and applications. We have Quick, which is our newcomer, a newest member, as we were augmented to also look into, to also have quantum infrastructure, and they're very much into, they're very much guiding us on the quantum side. And then we have ETP for HPC, which is really which is the association that provides us HPC technology input. These 3 private members sit in our advisory groups. So we have 2 advisory groups, one for research and innovation, one for infrastructure, that helps the governing board and the joint undertaking decide how to build up infrastructure and how to put together our research program. So back on the money, this is the budget that is allocated as part of the regulation that governs EuroHPC. This is the budget that the European Union has allocated to these actions, and you will see about 2 billion euros for infrastructure, where we're buying computers, and we will continue to buy computers. We aim to federate these machines and it is also what is going to be paying for skills and training. Then we have about 900 million euros for research and innovation, where we're doing research into both technology applications, and we will also be doing some international collaboration. And then last but not least, we have Connecting Europe facilities, which is providing 200 million euros for connectivity. These every time we do an action, this will be augmented. In most cases, this will be augmented by other members, participating states in most cases, that contributes. So when the joint undertaking spends €1, the participating states will spend €1, which is why in round numbers, the joint undertaking is managing 7 billion euros of budget for these actions. If we just quickly look at the infrastructure, I'm not going to steal much of the thunder because there's going to be much more detailed presentation from Vangelis on what we have. But what we've achieved so far is that we have 5 fully operational supercomputers available for you to access today in Luxembourg, Slovenia, Czech Republic, Bulgaria, and Finland. Then we have 3 machines that will be fully online this year. Italy is right around the corner. We have already run the LIMPAC benchmarks on them, and we're basically getting ready to go into full production. So you'll see Leonardo in Italy being available very shortly. And then Portugal and Spain will both come online later this year. Portugal, we're in very final phases, and for both of them, we aim to be ranked on the top 500 in the November run. And then I do have to just take a little thunder here. So one of the aims, as I explained, is that for the joint undertaking, is that Europe had fallen behind on capacity and the magnitude of supercomputers available to European scientists. It was with great pride that we, in November last year, the top 500, which ranks all supercomputers, our machine in Finland and our upcoming machine in Italy, Lumi and Leonardo, were ranked as number 3 and number 4 in the world. That also makes them number 1 and number 2 in Europe. And quite honestly, that's quite an achievement for the joint undertaking. We're very proud of that. I do have to say we are equally proud of our petascale machines. They are by far not small machines, as you will see. You can see the ranking of them on the top 500, with Melexina being the largest one of the petascale machines, and at number 52 on the top 500 in November. And of course, this is a moving target as more machines come onto the list. I think for your purposes here today, the petascale machines may actually be more appropriate targets for some of you than Lumi and Leonardo, but that will be explained further in later presentations. And then we're not stopping. We continue to invest in infrastructure. You will see a machine in Greece. You will see one in Ireland, one in Poland. You will also see we're currently very busy on the procurement of the first European exascale machine, which will be hosted in Germany. And then quantum computers, they're coming big time, and which is quite exciting. As part of our updated regulation, we also took on quantum, and we have identified 6 hosting sites that will host the first EuroHPC, the first set of EuroHPC quantum computers for us. And these machines will be procured over the course of this year and should be available to you shortly after. And then I'm not going to spend a lot of time right now on who can access these machines. Needless to say, you're here because you're a target for this. There's a strong desire from the Commission, from the European Union, and therefore also from us, to have SMEs take advantage of the infrastructure we're building up. We firmly believe that there are applications yet to be discovered and advantages yet to be discovered by providing access to this vast infrastructure that we now have available. And this is why we've invited you for this day. On the research and innovation side, Daniel is going to cover that in a lot more detail. I just want to make the point that we invest in what we call the full stack of research and innovation. We start all the way down at the fundamentals. We need hardware. We again, back to the realization that Europe has fallen behind. We wish that Europe has skill sets that are skills that within the HPC area that we wish to make sure flourishes. Europe has been, for instance, leading on what is now becoming more or less standard, which is water cooling of supercomputers. And of course, a lot of research has been done in that, and I don't know why I changed. Here we go. We go back, and we wish to continue that. We also have a very ambitious agenda to have a European processor. We've been running a project called the European Processor Initiative. It started out at the Commission, and it has continued in the joint undertaking. And it has just, you can say, the result of that is that a company has actually been created, Cyberl, which we hope to see the results then of this research being processors that will go into our future HPCs here in Europe. In parallel to that, we've started an initiative on RISC-V, which we are also pushing very hard, and that will hopefully at a later stage also be able to deliver RISC-V based processors for our machines. The processors, of course, need system software, so we are also investing in that. And on top of that, the application space. This is an area where Europe has historically been extremely dominant, and we wish to continue to have an edge on applications. And again, back to you as SMEs, we are confident that there are a large number of applications that have yet to be discovered because simply SMEs have not had access to infrastructure that gives these capabilities. And then last but not least, what's the point of investing in all of this if no one knows how to use it? So we are investing heavily. The flagship project there for the moment is a master's program in HPC, but in general skills, we have national competency centers that can help you with all of this. And there will be more talks about that later. So that's basically the investments that we are currently doing, and we will look to augment over the next years. Back just on technology, as said, EPI, our European Processor Initiative, is one significant project on the technology side, but there are a number of other projects. Europe has also some significant knowledge into the interconnects, and these are things that we also invest in further research into with a number of projects. We also look to, of course, into further energy, how these HPC systems can become as energy efficient as possible. I think it's fair to say this is something that's always been a strength in Europe, as we maybe had to pay more for our electricity than other parts of the world. But in the current situation, I think it's fair to say that the rest of the world is waking up to this as well, and we really have something to contribute on that side. Quantum, we have already invested, and we already have the first simulators coming online, and these we will be looking at combining quantum computers, quantum simulators with the supercomputers. and this is ongoing project within GENSI in France and Jülich Supercomputing in Germany. And this is really there's a very strong view that quantum and HPC is a marriage made in heaven, and that good stuff will come out of that, and you will see a significant research and innovation actions in the coming work programs. On the application side, we'll touch more on that, but of course we support a number of applications via a number of projects, centers of excellence, as well as more direct actions on applications, and Daniel will speak more to that later. And then usage and skills. Well, I think this is really something that you will be interested in as SMEs. We have a network of what we call national competency centers. There's one in each participating state. And by participating state, these are the states that are participating in EuroHPC. I should note there that, you'll see 33 competency centers. That is because our participating states are larger than the member states. So we have a number of countries outside of the member states that are part of EuroHPC. So countries like Turkey, for instance, and North Macedonia are part of EuroHPC. And so really the NCCs, that is intended to be the single point of access or the direct point of access into the services that the joint undertaking at large can provide via projects, and you are all welcome and invited to engage with the NCC in your country. They will be able to help you also with access to the EuroHPC machines. And then we have had, and we will continue, I'm sure, not prejudging that the governing board needs to decide on the prolonging, but it's been very successful. We've had a very successful project, FF for EuroHPC, that has specifically helped SMEs to use HPCs and to develop their applications. This is a project that in its current form is coming to an end, but I am convinced, without being able to promise, because that is in the hand of my governing board, but I am convinced that there will be some form of continuation of this, as it has been very successful. And then last but not least, at this point in time, the EU Masters for HPC. This is our flagship project in the skills area, where we're looking at a pan-European master's program for HPC. This is ongoing. The first set of students have spent a year on this, and we are, I believe it's still open for the next round of students. These students helped us at the EuroHPC Summit in March and demonstrated, basically made demonstrations of our supercomputers. So it's really nice to see the next set of experts coming along. This is a pilot project, so the aim here really is that this is also something that would then grow across Europe and help us all get the necessary skills for HPC. And with that, I'm gonna close. You will have much more detailed presentations of the areas from my colleagues. And I kind of tried to promise not to steal too much of their thunder. So I'll end my sharing here, I think.
Thank you very much, Anders. Thank you for this overview. And then we will proceed into details. And the next speaker is the head of the infrastructure sector, Vangelis Floros. So Vangelis, the floor is yours to present opportunities on the JU systems for SMEs.
Thank you, Lilith. So good morning all. And I need also to share my screen now. I'm using this PowerPoint Live feature that doesn't always work properly, I think.
It goes fine. We can see.
Okay, you
your
can
slide.
see it now. I also can see it, and I can control it. So, as Lilith mentioned, I'm leading the infrastructure sector of the JU, which is essentially responsible for the supercomputing infrastructure that the JU is deploying and is operating. And in this presentation, I want to focus on that, on our supercomputers, what is available right now, and what's available to the SMEs, to the industry. And I will make a high-level reference how you are able to access this infrastructure, what opportunities there are possible. But my colleagues, Chris and Clara, will come later with more details about the process that we're using for the application, the evaluation of proposals, providing access, and so on. So starting with, what is about our infrastructure and the EuroHPC supercomputers? For me, it's the heart of the JU. It's the workhorse of the JU, offering resources, computing power to the European community, the research, the industry community, in order to offer opportunities, the possibilities to accelerate discovery, accelerate innovation. And in particular, what my team is doing on this matter is basically we are involved in the system procurements themselves. We are running procurements. We are selecting the hosting entities that they are the supercomputing centers that they offer. They're hosting the systems and operating the systems. Once systems are operational, we are responsible for the operation, monitoring the SLAs with hosting entities and with the vendors. A big part of our work has to do with the access time allocation that we will present later. And also we are involved in issues related with the connectivity of the systems, networking, the federation of services, and the provision of high-level application support to our users. So all these are being controlled by my team. Now, very quickly an overview where we are right now in terms of systems. Anders already presented a slide with the number of supercomputers that are operational right now. So these are the systems that were procured in the period 2019 up to now, 8 systems overall. 3 pre-exascale systems. Pre-exascale, by pre-exascale we mean systems that they are above 150 petaflops, which are the quite big systems that they are approaching the exascale level. These are located in Finland, Lumi system, in Italy, Leonardo system, and in Spain, Mare Nostrum 5. And 5 petascale systems, smaller system, mid-range from 5 to 15 petaflops right now, aggregate performance. And these are located in Portugal, Luxembourg, Czech Republic, Slovenia, and Bulgaria. So these are the systems that we run the procurements during the past years. Not all of them are operational yet. Out of these systems, as Anders mentioned, Lumi is fully operational. Meluxina, Carolina, Vega Discover also fully operational since 2021. Leonardo is in the last stages of acceptance and will be put into production in a few days. And we have two systems still pending, being installed right now. It's Mare Nostrum 5 in Barcelona's Computing Center and Ducalion in MAC, Portugal. All these systems will be available in the coming months until the beginning of autumn. They should be fully operational. Now, this is the situation how it is right now, and additional systems are coming in the next years. Already we have announced and we have started the procurement process for Jupiter, which will be our first exascale system in Europe, which is quite a big and important project. This will be hosted in Germany in the Jülich Supercomputing Center. Some additional mid-range systems are coming, more powerful than the previous generation of petascale systems. What we have confirmed so far, and they are in the process of designing and preparing the procurement, is Daedalus in Greece and EuroHPC in Poland. But there are also additional systems underway, and there should be announcements on this soon. Now, installing the systems is not the only focus. Our next step is hyperconnectivity. Connect these systems in high bandwidth, low latency, high performance links to enhance usage scenarios that require fast access and interchange of information, transfer of data, access of services between sites. So this is a process that we are currently starting to investigate, and we will invest budget in the coming years. And the final level is the federation of all these resources, putting services on top of that connect the systems together, provide capabilities for data management, data transfers, access, for unified authentication of users across systems, computing services, high-level computing services like cloud access, virtual machines, containers, interactive computing. This is, let's say, the vision that we have for the imminent future, how the infrastructure should look in a couple of years from now. Going into detail about the systems that we have installed, I will start with our big pre-exascale systems, the two systems that are right now in the top of the world. So it's Lumi and Leonardo. Lumi is a Cray HP system that has been installed in Kajaani, a city in Finland, somewhere in the north of Helsinki. This is number 3 in the world in the latest top 500 list. It has been measured until now up to 309 petaflops performance. This is the GPU partition. This is an AMD platform, so CPUs and GPUs are all provided by AMD. The CPUs are AMD EPYC, and the GPUs rely on the AMD Instinct architecture of AMD, the MI250X GPUs. And then we have Leonardo, which is installed in Bologna, in Italy, operated by Cineca. This is a Natos Bulsiquana system. This relies on Intel Sapphire Rapids CPUs and NVIDIA Ampere GPUs, a variation of A100, which is a very popular platform, GPU platform for supercomputing. This has been tested so far up to 174.7 petaflop sustained performance. This is the booster partition. Again, this is the GPU partition of Leonardo, and this has placed it number 4 in the world. Now, these systems are quite big, as you can also see from the pictures. They provide a large range of capabilities and capacities. They provide different storage services, fast storage, scratch storage, archiving capabilities, different kind of partitions, oriented for GPUs, CPU, partitions for post-processing, for cloud resource management. So the possibilities are quite a lot. What we offer now, I mean, in our calls, it's mainly focuses on CPU and GPU, but there are different possibilities to exploit them, and in principle, they are able to cover all ranges of applications, from traditional computational, scientific to artificial intelligence, machine learning. These GPUs are really providing all the workhorse necessary to support this kind of applications. And then these systems, as I said, are the biggest so far. And what is important is that these systems are owned by the JU. We have funded 50% of the acquisition value. 50% also of the operations is paid by the by the JU, and the rest is covered by the participating countries, the hosting entity. So these are more or less controlled by us, and they are supported by the hosting entities. In addition, we have, as I said, smaller system, beta scale systems, that they are co-owned by the JU. We have paid only 35% of the acquisition cost for the systems, and we don't pay anything for operations, and thus we have access only to 35% of resources. Now, what is important about this smaller system is, again, that they provide a variety of capabilities. Mostly they are focused on AMD CPUs and NVIDIA A100 GPUs. So more or less the architecture there is uniform. But I think what is important is the variety of resources, the possibility to access them in different locations. All of them are covered and supported by well-experienced teams. And if we put all the numbers together, in the end, they reach up to quite significant numbers. And for us, the way we see these systems are a stepping stone for newcomers to come to test, to compile their applications. And then once mature, moving to bigger, higher exascale systems like the pre-exascale or the upcoming exascale systems. And these systems have been operational from the first systems that were operational for the beta scales, and they really, I mean, they were the first to give access. And right now, the majority of our users are exploiting them, running applications on the beta scale systems. Now, all these are good. The question is how people can get access, how you can get access coming from the industry, being an SME. So in principle, these systems are available for everyone coming from the public and the private sector, academic, research institutions, industry, SMEs. The requirement there is that your institution, your organization, your affiliation is within Horizon 2020 country that participated or was affiliated to Horizon 2020 program. This means that all EU member states are eligible, but also countries like UK, Switzerland, and of course, Turkey, North Macedonia, as Anders mentioned. Also, these countries are eligible for accessing the systems. The requirement then, as I said, is the Horizon 2020 program. We provide a variety of access modes that I will go in more detail in the next slide. The conditions for access. The access is for free, in principle. What we require is that whoever accesses them is using for open research and development. So the primary purpose of using these systems is research and innovation. And also what we ask is to be acknowledged whenever you have a publication or wherever there's a publicity of the results of your work, to acknowledge that these were offered by the JU, we were funded by the JU. And also to contribute in dissemination events and produce and submit reports and generally publicize the results of your work. In more detail, the document that details the conditions and the principles of accessing the systems is our access policy document, which is a document that has been approved by the EuroHPC Governing Board, in which we define various modes. In principle, there are 6 access modes that someone can use for requesting a resource to the system. Among them, the extreme scale and regular access modes are for the biggest goal and for the biggest applications. And as you can see, I mentioned there that these are peer-reviewed. So in order to be accepted, you need to submit a proposal, and then you are evaluated, you are ranked, and based on the ranking and the amount of resources available, you are awarded access to the system for 1 up to 2 years. And these are periodic calls. We have for extreme scale call 2 cutoff dates per year, after which we perform the evaluation. And the regular access is a bit more frequent, it's 3 times per year. Also, what is notable here is that for these big calls, there is a separate track for industry. So we dedicated a number of resources right now, around 20%, which are reserved for applications coming from the industry, in order not to compete with the traditional, well-experienced scientific world coming from the academia. So the applications in these tracks have priority on this 20% of the resources. Now, there are more lightweight ways to access the system. Most notable maybe for you interesting is the development access, which offers smaller amount of resources. Right now, the access policy foresees up to around 55% of supercomputing resources to be offered for development access. For this, there is no peer review, scientific peer review. There is only technical review. We have monthly cutoffs at the end of each month. We collect all the applications we have received. It goes through some administrative checks that we verify the eligibility. Then we send it to the hosting entities, the supercomputing centers, to confirm that these are applications that they can run in the systems, that the libraries and necessary software is available and is possible to run. And then after 2 weeks, we immediately, the applicant gets a response and is contacted to get access to the system. And for this, for development, you may have access up to 1 year. For benchmark, these are smaller calls. This is essentially dedicated in order to run some benchmark of your application to see the scalability, performance, potentials before applying to larger calls like extreme scale and regular. So running on benchmark is a prerequisite before applying to large calls. Now, there are other opportunities for the industry and for anyone who is interested, essentially, which is foreseen in our regulation. This is commercial access. So according to our regulation, we are able to provide access commercial terms, applying a pay-per-use model. So if you are not interested to apply and to be evaluated and to be part of a peer review, you may just pay for these resources. Now, I have put a big asterisk there because it's something that actually you have not activated yet. However, it is a possibility, and if someone is really interested, and this way also you don't have restrictions for open research. You can actually use it to develop product. It's for commercial exploitation. You may contact the JU, and we may seek for an opportunity in a way how we could implement this scenario. One important detail here is that these calls are supported in the implementation by PRAISE, which is a traditional HPC initiative in Europe in the past years. And this means that all the sites and the portals you will see when you're trying to apply for access are branded with PRAISE. So don't be confused. If you visit these pages, you will find specific sections for EuroHPC, and these are for EuroHPC systems, for EuroHPC calls, following EuroHPC principles and rules. And in order to have a feeling of how much really amount of resources we're talking about millions of core hours to be provided every year, billions of core hours actually. The notation we're using here to simplify a bit the things is to allocate resources in node hours. So you allocate a whole node for this amount of time. So by the end of 2023, when all the systems are operational, we expect to offer up to 64.5 million node hours, and in variety of resources, CPUs, GPUs, FPGAs, in variety of platforms, AMD, Intel, NVIDIA, even Fujitsu ARM, which is our Tucalion system in Portugal. And we are reaching an aggregate performance level of 170 petaflops. And this number, of course, will increase next year when all the partitions are available for the whole period of time and more systems will be coming. For industry and SMEs, What we can offer for commercial access, what is foreseen by the regulation, is that we can go up to 20%. So all 20% of the above mentioned numbers could potentially move to commercial access, can be offered on a pay-per-use basis to the industry. And relevant also activity to the industry is this possibility that the new regulation has given us, that we can procure a specific industry level supercomputer designed with industry in mind, specification in collaboration with an industrial partner in order to serve specifically industrial requirements. And this is also a project in process. And I will finalize with a nice timeline of how our infrastructure is planned to evolve in the coming years. So as I said, Lumi Leonardo have been or will be accepted soon. Mare Nostrum 5 is coming in phases and will be available by autumn, as well as Deucalion, which is our last petascale system. Then in 2024, we expect the launch of procurements for mid-range systems. Jupiter procurement, the exascale system, is already in the process of procurement. There is a competitive dialogue that is taking place right now these days. There was an invitation to vendors, and now there is dialogues with them in order to finalize technical specifications before the final tender. And then additional mid-range systems will be coming by 2025, and the second exascale system, which already we have launched the call for the hosting entity, for the selection of the hosting entity of the second exascale system. And then moving ahead in the next year, there are additional plans in the process for post-exascale systems until 2027, when the current regulation of JU expires. And that's it from my side. For additional information, you can visit our website. And if you have any questions, you can post it in the chat. Many thanks.
Thank you very much, Vangelis, for this overview. So according to our timetable, we have 10 minutes break and question and answers, but we are running a bit late with our program. So let's make it 5 minutes break and questions and answers. I haven't seen any questions yet in the chat, but so I encourage our participants to post your questions in the chat, and we will read and answer. But meanwhile, I would like to ask you, Vangelis, are the systems you presented are usable also for AI and machine learning applications, seeing that there are a lot of GPUs and so?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, as I said, they can cover all ranges in all domains of applications. Those who include GPU partitions, I think they are particularly suitable for this kind of applications. I mean, Leonardo, at some point, there was this publication from NVIDIA claiming that this is a 10 exaflop system, AI system. So really, I think they are excellent platforms for this kind of applications.
Okay, thank you. Then I don't see any questions. I just want to point you. There is a question. What is the price for SME? I guess a pay-per-use possibility, Vangelis.
So in principle, it's free. I mean, for open research. If you wanted to use it for commercial exploitation, this depends on the system and the hosting entity that is actually providing the service. I cannot provide numbers this time, but as I said, if someone is interested to access a specific system for commercial purposes, you may contact us.
Okay, thank you. And for contacting, I have now put the link of our website in the chat, where you can find also contact us information. You are welcome to send us also email to me and my colleagues. There is another question. Could you please provide more information about how the users access individual HPC systems? Are they built on top of something like Slurm?
So in short, yes. These are traditional supercomputing platforms where Linux command line SLARM is the primary way of access and exploiting, although additional more high-level services and possibilities are available in systems like containers, cloud platforms for using virtual machines. But in principle, yes, you use the traditional way, accessing Linux command lines, submitting jobs through SLARM, and post-processing through additional tools and so on.
Okay, thank you. There is one comment that there is the EuroHPC JU part of the systems, but there is also a national part of the systems and about access, and that, however, the SMEs may or may not be able to access the national part based on national policies. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this also to make it clear, our part, it's our access policy that defines the principles for accessing. The national part is defined by the authorities themselves, the national authorities. There are different access policies that apply for the national percentage of the system and different opportunities. Certainly, you can also access the national part of the system.
Okay, thank you. Another question, is there any call specific for SMEs?
So right now there is no specific call for SMEs, but as I said, there is a specific track within our calls dedicated for SMEs that gives priorities to industry in general, including SMEs.
Okay, so one goes to the development access, for example, and then selects industry track.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. And then we have one more question, or several more. Can an SME software company apply for compute time to optimize its own software and supercomputers?
So I think this will fall within the commercial access because you want it for commercial exploitation, actually to develop a product. I mean, if your software is like open source and you release the code afterwards, there is no problem to access it. If it is, for commercial exploitation, this will fall within the paid per usage access.
Okay, thank you. Are these high-level services somehow unified among these HPCs, or are they HPC specific? I assume the software and the applications on the HPC systems.
Right. So right now, all these systems and supercomputing centers are islands. I mean, they are connected, but they provide services independently. They have defined their own, services, software, and range of software that they want to offer, and so on. This will be somehow started to unify through our federation action. So some layers of the software will be federated, will be unified, offering a uniform way to use these systems. But if you apply at this moment, it's really independent.
Okay, thank you. We have two more questions, and then I guess we will go for a 5 minutes break. So can we use the system to solve equations using commercial software as well?
In principle, yes, but then it depends on the software, the availability of software, how licenses are managed. This is something that is specific to the hosting entity itself. So when you apply and you define your software that is commercial, we need to check what are the conditions with the specific hosting entity, how maybe should be necessary to bring your own licenses to be installed, but it should be possible.
Okay, thank you. And then last question, I think. Yeah. How long do you offer free HPC for SMEs?
I mean, it's the conditions defined in the access modes that we describe. It's for development access, for example, it's up to 1 year. But
then up to 1 year of access.
Up to a year and can be renewable. If if there is more work that needs to be done, the access policy foresees up to 3 renewals, actually, so you can go up to 3 years. But it has to be well justified, the reason for requesting all this amount of time and resources, but it's possible.
Okay, and then if an SME has a different project, then they can apply again after these 3 years.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, these are especially for development benchmark access. You may request more than one application to run, especially for benchmark, if you want to benchmark different systems. For extreme scale regular access, we are putting some limitations there. We don't want the systems to be exploited only by a couple of users. So we have put in principle a limit of 1 application per principal investigator, which also is flexible depending on some conditions.
Okay. Thank you very much. I don't see any more questions in the chat. I would propose we go for a 5 minutes break. Let's continue. I would like to pass the floor to my next colleague, Daniel Opalka, who is the head of Research and Innovation sector. And Daniel will talk about the SME opportunities within research and innovation in EuroHPC. So Daniel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lily, and good morning, everybody. And let me just share my presentation.
Not yet happening.
Yeah.
Yes, it looks good. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So in this presentation, I would like to address one part of the EuroHPC's operations in a little bit more detail, and these are our activities in the context of research and innovation. Now, research and innovation at EuroHPC covers, of course, on the one hand, the traditional areas of research, such as development of new technology, software development, etc. But it also includes, for example, quantum computing and the development of skills in our European communities. So let me maybe start with one of the most important parts for research programs in general, and this is where we receive funding from, how much funding we receive, and how the different contributions are split among our stakeholders. So as has been explained in the first talk by our executive director, the EuroHPC Joint Undertaking is a joint undertaking. So we have a number of stakeholders that provide funding to us. And we can roughly group them into 3 parts. So first of all, the most important is the European Union that provides a very significant part of our funds for research and innovation. And you can see those that are directly linked to research and innovation in red in the left box. So we receive about 900 million euro from the Horizon Europe framework program from the Union. These funds primarily cover our activities in the areas of technology. So this includes hardware design, hardware development, but also software, system software, as well as applications. And applications, yes, as one of the very important, very strong areas in Europe, as a separate pillar in our activities and international cooperation. Besides this, we receive a significant amount of funds from the Digital Europe program, and within the research and innovation activities, these are spent on widening use and skills. I think this is an area which can be of particular interest for small and medium-sized enterprises. Now this part contributed by the Union is supposed to be about 50% of our overall budget, and the remaining funds come in through a co-funding scheme that is set out in our regulation, the legislation that establishes our organization. And these are about 3 billion in between 2020 and 2027 from our participating states. So this money covers co-funds beneficiaries that are established in the respective country, and this is currently managed independently by national funding authorities. And we also expect significant contributions in kind by our private members or by the beneficiaries. So in kind means, loosely speaking, an amount, costs within a research and innovation project that are not covered by a public funding body. So neither by the Union nor by a national funding authority. So this can be a company's own budget, or it can have other sources. So this is roughly speaking what we consider as in-kind contributions. So as you can see, there's a significant amount of money, and we've just started spending this. There is a lot to come in the next years. In order to fund our project partners and applicants, we have a number of financial instruments at our disposal. And depending on the specific activity, we choose typically the most appropriate instrument for this. And as a guideline, you can, I present this here as a scheme on this slide. We have as the most important funding instrument for research and innovation activities, the instrument of grants. These are awarded through open calls for proposals. These are typically open to all entities, all legal entities that are established in the Union and even beyond. So within the participating states, in some cases, it's even more open, and also third countries may participate with their own funding. Grants in our areas cover typically our pillars of activities in the area of technology, application, skills and usage, and international cooperation. So this is pretty much all the funds that are coming from the Horizon Europe framework program. And of course, these grants are following the rules of the Horizon Europe framework program of the European Union. And as I mentioned on the previous slides, the pillar of skills and usage originates from the Digital Europe program, which means there are currently a few more restrictions on participation. So the Digital Europe program is a closed framework program, and not all countries or entities based in all participating states may be able to participate at this point in time, but this situation is continuously changing. As a second group of funding instruments, we use procurements. This is primarily used for infrastructure, but also, for example, for federated services or supercomputing services. And these contracts are typically awarded via calls for tender that are published on the European Commission's Funding and Tenders portal. These activities may receive also co-financing through European structural and investment funds. For example, the Recovery and Resilience Facility that has been set up in the context of the Union's response to the COVID pandemic and other initiatives. And finally, this is something I think this is very important as small and medium-sized enterprises move from as they develop their products from a pure research and innovation activity towards a higher technology readiness level. Because at some point, our framework programs do not allow funding high TRL products or industrialization. And for this, there are a number of opportunities provided by other institutions. And of course, we are also in contact with them to align as much as possible our funding programs. So, for example, equity and debt financing is provided by the European Innovation Council that offers equity investments in small and medium-sized enterprises. And this may also be blended with grants, so that part of the funds will be a grant and another part will be an investment in terms of equity. Similarly, for larger amounts of investments or debt financing, the European Investment Bank offers loans. And we have one example. For example, this is a company, Cypearl, that has just closed its Series A funding round in the last 10 days with an investment of 90 million euro. This is a company that was created their product within one of our research and innovation actions and now produces the first European high-performance computing processor. Now, as we discuss funding, let's have a brief look at the HPC value chain. It is the mission of the EuroHPC Joint Undertaking to fund the entire value chain and in particular to close gaps in Europe to achieve a higher degree of technological autonomy in the Union. And while these are just a few examples. This is not an exhaustive list. Of course, it comes from a study prepared by the European Investment Bank Advisory Services. While there is already a quite active ecosystem on ISVs in Europe, HPC centers, HPC intermediaries that link centers and customers, as well as HPC customers. So the Union consumes a very significant amount of the worldwide available HPC resources. However, there are also a few gaps, and some of them are, for example, in the area of system integrators, storage specialists, network providers, although there are some players in the European ecosystem, and perhaps the most significant technology gap that has been identified is in the area of chip manufacturers, critical components, which is currently addressed by a number of EU initiatives. We are part of this, obviously, but also the European Chips Act and other joint undertakings address this gap. So if we look now at the concrete numbers, what are our research and innovation actions at this point in time? So we currently have invested about 500 million overall in research and innovation actions, split among 40 grants, 40 actions. So this means 40 consortia we funded for their research and innovation activities, covering the different areas. And what you can see from these figures is that our actions are typically relatively large grants. So most of our budget is spent on projects with an overall budget beyond 10 million euro. This This is possible because the EuroHPC JU pools European resources, and these are obviously project sizes that are very difficult by some countries, at least, to fund at the national level. So therefore, our mission is to fund large and strategic projects, primarily in as part of the research and innovation program. So these cover HPC hardware, advanced processors, accelerators, etc. Software stack, including programming models, resource management, HPC services, applications, and finally skills, usage, and HPC adoption. Here I would like to show you a few examples of industrial research and innovation that is funded by the EuroHPC Joint Undertaking. This is quite often software related or HPC application related, including the respective workflows. And of course, as I just mentioned, we fund very often very large projects. These projects are typically the industrial projects are typically coordinated by larger companies that have the infrastructure, all the project management, etc. But nevertheless, these consortia are, of course, very attractive for SMEs as well to join and contribute and also benefit from the ecosystem that is created within these large projects. So here, I just want to mention those four. Ligate is a ligand generator and portable drug discovery platform at exascale. This is coordinated by Dompe, an Italian pharmaceutical industry. That we have NextSim as another example where larger industry is participating. Airbus Operations develops here a new reference flow solver for aerodynamic applications inside the Airbus group. And with Across, we address workflows and applications for aeronautics, climate, weather, and energy domains with the participation of a number of SMEs. And Exaform is actually a project that is run by an SME, the ESI group, that is developing the OpenFOAM software. So there are a lot of opportunities or have been in the past, and this will continue in our next calls. So beyond these traditional research and innovation actions within the framework program, which of course are awarded, we have to follow certain procedures. I will say more about this on my last slide. We also offer more continuous support specifically for SMEs that may not wish to wait for 12 months until a 10 million grant has been awarded and went through the evaluation and with all the administrative effort. And of course, also the reporting is quite significant of this research innovation action. So what we have done within a number of our projects is to create easy access to HPC for our communities. This specifically addresses SMEs, but also covers, of course, public services, administrations, and academic communities as appropriate. Now, this is governed by the overall digital strategy of the Union. So the European Union has published a digital compass that guides these activities, and also our, of course, activities follow this to a certain extent. This is policy, Europe's digital decade, digital targets for 2030. And as you can see on the slide, one of the ambitions is that by 2030, about 75% of European enterprises have taken up cloud computing services, big data, and artificial intelligence, and more than 90% of European SMEs reach at least a basic level of digital intensity. So this demonstrates that SMEs have a very high priority in our activities. And here I we have identified 3 elements that we believe could help SMEs to develop their business models. And this is, first of all, expertise and access to HPC resources. This is a service that we provide free of charge through a European network of national competence centers in about 32 countries at this point in time, to widen the use of HPC in Europe, but also very concretely support SMEs, public services, private businesses in adopting HPC in their existing business models, or develop new opportunities on the basis of HPC, and of course then related artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud, big data. So these national competence centers are supposed to provide an easily accessible contact point, a gateway for users to also access European HPC resources. So our current European ecosystem is a little bit inhomogeneous. There are some very well-developed countries and communities, others somewhat less. But within this network, every part of Europe has access to this European pool of knowledge that exists in our communities. Now, this is the first part, expertise and HPC resources. The second is financial support for HPC uptake. We understand that it may not be sufficient to offer advice in how to use HPC and perhaps access to our infrastructure for open research and innovation. It also needs financial support to initiate the HPC uptake in SMEs that often operate with very limited financial resources. And for this, we have established a call in the past. This is the FF, which resulted in a project, which is the FF for EuroHPC project, to boost innovation and business opportunities for SMEs, and in particular solve concrete business problems with HPC. So these are grants that are that require a much lower administrative burden than our usual research and innovation actions, which are usually much larger, in millions of euros, and address, as has been shown in the past, specifically the needs of SMEs. And I will say a few more words on the next slide. And finally, is of course talent development, and I'm not going to say much about this. We have the EU Master for HPC. This is not yet sufficiently mature. I would say that there is a significant intake of new talents in the labor market. However, beyond this master program, which is now just the starting point, we also offer, and we currently also further developing this, short-term trainings, courses, internship programs that are perhaps more appropriate in a professional context. So let me say finally a few words about one of our key initiatives to support SMEs. This is the EuroHPC network. It's a network I mentioned already of about more than 30 national competence centers that provide training and specific local support to access HPC resources, expertise, and funding free of charge. So if you contact one of those, they will give you advice which national funding programs exist for your specific case. They may help you to adopt HPC in your business model. They can give advice how to solve business problems using HPC and a lot more. They serve as a single point of contact for a European network of HPC experts, and the ambition is to ensure a coordinated and consistent level of expertise across Europe in HPC, and also related disciplines that build on HPC, such as high performance data analytics, artificial intelligence, and big data, for example. Now, a few more words on the FF for EuroHPC project, and I can only invite you to visit this website that is shown in the title of the slide, ff4eurohpc.eu, where you can find a number of projects that reports for a number of projects that have been funded within this grant. This provides financial support for SMEs to address business challenges, adopt HPC in business models, develop skills in SMEs to use HPC and related disciplines in a business context. So these projects are not research and innovation projects. As such, the focus here is really to solve business problems that concretely boost the competitiveness and the business models in SMEs. And here there are just a few pictures. This covers a wide range, a wide portfolio of different areas, from next generation chicken farms to canned food dynamics and digital twins for airflow and drug delivery in human airways. So overall, we provide about 50 to 150,000 euro per beneficiary within this program. And in addition to this, SMEs receive support by experts from leading European HPC centers to help getting used to HPC systems and infrastructure. This is not limited to our EuroHPC infrastructure. So basically the SME that receives the grant can choose what is most appropriate for the specific business case. And just to give you some numbers, so we have launched 2 calls for these grants of the order of 50,000 to 150,000 euro per beneficiary. In the first call, we received 68 proposals, where 16 have been selected for funding. In the second call, 74 submissions have been received and 26 have been selected. So we had overall, I think, 191 participants from about 27 countries. So I think it's fair to say this is a very successful project and has really created an impact on the SMEs that participated. Now, this is my last slide of the presentation here. I just would like to give you a schematic and very rough overview how the process is for our research and innovation grants. So these are our big research innovation actions, typically of the order of several million of budget. And if you choose to participate in a consortium and benefit from one of these grants, your proposal will go through the process outlined on this slide. So after the call deadline, when the proposal has been submitted, it is followed by an evaluation process. We typically inform the applicants after about 5 months about the result of the evaluation and send an invitation letter if the proposal was successful. And this is followed by a grant agreement preparation period, which lasts typically around 3 months, because there's a lot of administrative work and data that needs to be provided to prepare the contract, the funding contract. And we usually aim for a grant signature for a time to grant from the call deadline to the signature of about 8 months. This is something that is in common with all grants of the Horizon Europe Framework Program. So with this, I thank you for your interest and for your attention, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Daniel. There are actually questions, like 4 of them, but I think we will come back to them after next presentation as we're running out of time. So the next in turn is me. So I will be giving a presentation about success stories and further details on for possibilities for SMEs in EuroHPC. And I will try to share my slides. So my name is Liit Axner, as I said, and I'm a program officer at EuroHPC Joint Undertaking, and will show you a little bit insight on success stories in addition to what Daniel showed, but also related to the possibilities that my colleague Vangelis presented in his talk. So when we send the invitation for participation in this event, many of you mentioned that you have not used a high-performance computing up until now, but you are acquainted, for example, with cloud computing or not at all. And that is why I would like to describe what is the profit of SMEs in using high-performance computing, all the CPUs and GPUs that are available for you. And there are, in principle, 4 main points: innovation, cost saving, competition, and profit. So by using this possibility, many industries reduce product design and production cycles, accelerate the design of new materials, minimize development and manufacturing costs, and increase resource efficiency. So you are having great tools to do your innovation. You save on your costs instead of doing, for example, experimentation. And then it immediately grows your competitiveness on the market. And then finally, when the product is sold, you make the profit. But even during this whole cycle, you make profit by cutting costs. And I will show some examples where companies report on the amounts they cut by using our systems, for example. So as Vangelis said, there are systems for you right now online to apply. I won't go to the details, but what I want to mention is usually the demands from industry by using these systems are security, a quick access, and an agile environment where they can adjust, for example, using the industrial software licensing. And there we have at the moment 40 companies running on the systems, and for different companies we have implemented different solutions based on their needs. Some needs are not possible to satisfy, but most of them we have managed to accommodate, like licensing. So if the company has the possibility a license that allows use of software on different systems, then these licenses can be quickly coupled to the system, one of our systems to use, and the problem is solved. Or security issues like transfer of data or other solutions that are more viable for the company to use, that can be also adjusted and implemented. And finally, as Vangelis said, there is the quick access possibility, the development access, or even the benchmark access if you just want to test the first time how it feels to use the supercomputers. And this quick access is maximum 2 weeks for you to get your hands on the systems. So here is the menu of calls available. Just a note that the extreme access call is the target flagship applications call. Basically, you need to have really scalable or a large AI training application or something that can prove that you are capable of utilizing such an incredible amount of CPU and GPU hours. And these are incredible amounts. And you can go to the website called praisecalls.eu and you can see the amounts there. However, the development and benchmark access is quick possibility. And we know that filling in the forms can consider to be a hassle for some and can raise some questions depending what to fill in and how to fill in. And that is why my colleagues will give the step-by-step presentation after me, how to do so. But there is also a nice movie produced by one of the national competence centers, the one in Sweden. And you can just scan this QR code and go to the film and watch it. It's just 5 minutes and follow step by step and fill in the forms and submit. Daniel talked about the FF for EuroHPC project. I have posted the link in the chat. So it's a project with 6 partners, and the duration was 36 months until end of August this year. But I must say there is going to be a new round of that, and then you will be able to use this possibility as well. For example, an SME have managed to get 250,000 euros with this project to implement an experiment. And yeah, you can see the conditions on the website and you can use this. Another thing that also Daniel mentioned is the national competence centers. Actually, now in this event, we have several of them participating, and I would definitely encourage to contact them. You will get a lot of support from them. They are our interface to you, to SMEs and to industry, and in principle to users. And they don't only give advice how to utilize these systems, but also they can give you a hands-on help filling in all these applications, whether it is for FF for HPC or other grants, or whether it is just for the access of the systems. They organize trainings and they help SMEs in general in advice to give an advice on how to utilize these GPUs and CPUs in an optimal way. Then training. We all know that there are some challenges in using the supercomputers. And also we see that the artificial intelligence is kicking it in rapidly in different disciplines and sectors of industry. And there is a need for training, not only for academia, but also for industry. And national competence centers are organizing enormous amount of training that are free of charge for small and medium enterprises to participate. You can just go to this website of EuroHPC Access and choose training from drop-down menu. And then you can see all the training organized in all 32 countries for you. And you just choose which one you want to participate. Many are online virtual events, many are physical, and it doesn't matter in which of the European country you are situated or Horizon 2020 country you are situated. You can always travel and participate or participate online in these events, and these are mostly free of charge. And then again, back to supercomputers. So as Vangelis mentioned, these supercomputers became online only about 1.5 years ago. The first one became online for users. And up until December 2022, we already accommodated 394 projects on these systems. And of these, 11% are from private and public administration sectors. 20 of these are from small and medium enterprises. And actually, 7 SMEs, after trying the development access call, took the step and applied for regular access, filled in the peer review process required documents and sent them in. And after a careful evaluation and peer review process of about 2 months, these SMEs got access to the systems. And now they have a large chunk of CPU and GPU hours to do their research on these systems. And many of them are actually on the pre-exascale systems, the largest systems we have. There are also 21 governmental organizations. 3 also applied through the regular access call that are running on these systems. These governmental organizations can be national archives or national libraries or financing governmental organizations of different countries. The SMEs that are now utilizing the systems are from Sweden, Spain, Slovenia, Turkey, Italy, France, Finland, Croatia, and Belgium. But I would very much like to promote you and other countries. There are over 32 countries that can use these systems, and I strongly encourage the small and medium enterprises to apply for the systems and utilize these possibilities. Here is another chart showing the statistics across the different sectors and disciplines. And we also note here that many of these applications are either a part of the simulations are done for artificial intelligence, like they are running fluid dynamic simulations and then switching to some machine learning training on the systems to use. And these are also possibilities. So you don't need to have just one software to run and test on the systems. You can utilize different methods, different disciplines, different sectors at once in your project. And here is a bit of an overview of AI applications on EuroHPC systems. So as we said, almost all of the systems have GPUs, and especially GPUs that are architected towards the artificial intelligence and machine learning. And you can see the applications running right now on these systems. So here are some examples of companies that are utilizing EuroHPC systems now. The Northvolt company is a Swedish battery producing company that are developing and running simulations in electrochemistry to produce the environment-friendly batteries, and not only to produce these batteries, but also to utilize in a recycled way. So they don't throw away batteries, but also they try to come with the methods to reuse these batteries. And this is quite nice to see an utilization of an HPC system for environment-friendly battery development. And when this company started to use the systems in 2021, it was an SME. At the moment, they have over 3,000 employees, and they grow very fast. And we can proudly say that maybe a very small element in this, but still we took part in this development. Another SME that utilizes right now the EuroHPC systems and actually managed also to get regular access is Ercopharma. They are developing an atomistic model of a main barrier in human skin and want to see how the medicine put on the skin is being absorbed in the body. And then they predict drug permeability using molecular dynamic simulations and using the GROMACS software. Another interesting SME is a Croatian SME, which is developing a solution in AI to assess the quality of spontaneous movements in children between 2 and 3 months, to evaluate whether these children have neurological illnesses, or vice versa. If the child has been diagnosed by a neurological disease, whether this still holds or was it a wrong diagnosis. This is also done on one of the systems, Viga system in Slovenia, even though the SME from Croatia. So yeah, so as you see, there are a lot of simulations running on our systems that encourage not only SME profit, but also collaborations and also innovation for small and medium enterprises. And now if we look at the FF for EuroHPC projects, here is another example that actually was also mentioned on Daniel's slides, where an SME using AI, ML, computer vision for the next generation poultry farms. And this is an SME situated in Montenegro, and running these simulations to see the behavior of chickens and to see how the poultry developing and if there are any diseases, for example, or anything. Another example is the AI-aided wind flow and gas dispersion simulation in cities done by a Spanish SME. And this SME received the grant from FF for EuroHPC and ran this experimentation and developed this method successfully. And you can read the success story on the FF for EuroHPC website. And with that, I would like to thank you. And as usual, please put your questions in the chat and we will address them. And actually, right now is the question and answer session. So I will stop sharing my screen. And I see that there are several questions. So I would like to ask my colleagues, Daniel, Vangelis, if you can also join to the discussion, because there are some questions to both of you. So the first question is to Vangelis. There is a question on hyperconnectivity. Hyperconnectivity will be used for EuroHPC share only, or do you plan to lease this capacity in parallel for other purpose?
So, I mean, the purpose of this hyperconnectivity is to essentially better connect the supercomputing centers that they are hosting EuroHPC systems. So the focus will be HPC applications in general. Now, of course, other applications running within the hosting entity within the data center will be able to take advantage of that. I don't think there is a purpose to exclude them. And in principle, what we see this hyperconnectivity infrastructure being important is as an enabling layer for the federation services that will be built on top of the HPC systems. So I don't see any restrictions from these scenarios, but in any case, it's something that we will look deeper in the coming months, how exactly we need to formulate it.
Okay, thank you. There is another question for you, Vangelis, regarding big data. What is the standard and maximum data storage size available per project on the systems, I guess?
Good question. So there is no really maximum defined, apart from LUMI, which are certain limits. Their allocations provide for storage in terms of terabyte hours, and you will find limitations in our access calls. In principle, in terms of data requirements, applications, once they apply, they need also to define them. And if there are specific requirements, let's say excessive requirements for data storage or data transfer, it's something that we need to discuss and negotiate with the hosting entity per case.
Okay, thank you very much. The next question is for Daniel. Will FF for Europe continue with another call, and what is the timeline?
So the current FF for EuroHPC project will end, will end by the end of this year. So we plan to have a short extension to cover a potential gap between this phase and a follow-up phase. So even though I cannot promise at this point a specific date when the next project will be launched, I can assure you that we have the firm intention to propose a new action following FF for EuroHPC to our governing board as soon as possible. And we will also launch this call as soon as our governing board has taken their decision. In general, I'm quite optimistic that this will happen very soon, as this is in my opinion, one of our most successful projects with a very high impact in line with our mission and objectives. And I think it's also one of the calls that are least controversial among our participating states and stakeholders. So I'm quite optimistic.
Okay, thank you very much. And then we have another question. What options, if any, exist for an SME software company, ISV, with closed software source to make use of free of charge compute time for EuroHPC JU options? For example, benchmarking its software, or is the funding only directed towards standard HPC users? Vangelis, I think it's for you.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Well, in principle, if we take the access policy right now, literally there are no options. However, the access policy is the way it's formulated is guided by the regulation of the JU, which recently has relaxed a bit the requirements for SMEs in terms of accessing and commercial exploitation. If there is such case, you can get in touch with us and we can see exactly what is needed, and there might be solutions.
I also would encourage to contact national competence centers, and because per case they are very knowledgeable to dig into the case and advise how to tackle this. The next question, what type of eligible costs apply in the EuroHPC proposals? How much cost share is expected from the SME? And I think that's for you, Daniel. Eligible costs.
I'm not
Yeah.
now. I hope I understand the question correctly. Let me try, and if I miss anything, then please feel free to get back on this. Eligible cost is within our legal framework in our research and innovation grants a term that is defined in our grant agreement. So if you look at the model grant agreement, and the European Commission has published an annotated model grant agreement on the funding and tenders portal, which includes explanations on specific eligibility criteria of costs. And this applies to any participant, whether an SME or another one. So for example, costs in general need to be directly related to the project and necessary for its implementation. So this is one eligibility criteria. It needs to be incurred by the beneficiary and, for example, not by a third party. And there are a number of other activities. So these are the general eligibility criteria. Now, when it comes to cost share, I understand the question whether the activities in a research and innovation action are fully covered by the grant, or whether there is a contribution from the SME expected to the total costs. In this case, it really depends on the specific type of action. So whenever we launch a call, this sets out or defines a type of action. And the type of action is something that is defined in the basic act in the legislation of the framework program. So for example, in Horizon Europe, there are a number of different types of actions, research and innovation actions. There are innovation actions, there are coordination and support actions, and others. And depending on this type of action and possible exceptions that our governing board has agreed on, the funding rates are defined for SMEs. So as a basic rule, you can assume if you participate in a call that is a research and innovation action, you can expect that your costs will be covered at a funding rate of 100%. 50% coming from the EuroHPC Joint Undertaking and 50% from the national funding authorities. If you participate in an innovation action that addresses high TRL research, the situation may be different. Here, the typical funding rate is only 70%. So in other words, it will be up to the participant, if the participant is a private entity, to cover 30% or contribute 30% of the total costs. But this is something very call specific. It's decided on a case-by-case basis by our governing board. And the only advice that I can give you is to look at the calls that we publish on the Funding and Tenders portal and on our webpage. And if you have any questions, this is also something to address to your national competence centers. Contact your national competence centers, ask them which calls in HPC are currently available and what are the funding rates for SMEs and how much contributions are expected.
Okay, thank you very much. And one more question for you, Vangelis. Regarding the research on carbon footprint of computation, is there any estimation of the overall HPC's footprint and the trend? Can researchers see the current project's carbon footprint?
So in general, energy efficiency is something that we pay a lot of attention, especially when we select hosting entities. It's one of the criteria of the supercomputing center to implement their low PUE. Then many of our systems, if we talk about carbon footprints, it's not that straightforward in the sense that many of our data centers are green data centers, like the one of Lumi in Cayenne. It's renewable resources. So it's difficult to talk in terms of carbon footprint, but if we talk about in terms of energy consumption, which let's say this is the first step, it's something that we consider a lot. We haven't initiated any activity yet to monitor or to report on energy consumption per application, let's say. But it's something that we want to push forward. We want to increase the awareness of our users about the power consumption that their codes are exposing, and to together with the accounting about core hours consumption, also to provide them an overview of energy consumption, and then to encourage them to improve and optimize their codes. It's something that we really consider, and we want to carefully see how we can start introducing it in the, let's say, in the daily life of the activities of the users.
Okay, thank you very much. There are some comments regarding what you said also, so I'm not going to read this. But there is another question. Do you plan to cooperate with private HPC application as a service providers? Plan to have specific calls for such providers of full services on HPC, basically having the HPC applications on cloud as a service, for example?
Not right now, there are no such plans.
Okay, thanks. So I don't see more questions and we're running out of time. What I would like to propose is a break until 11:15. And if people have more questions, you are free to post in the chat and we will answer them after the break. And then we have the last presentation where you will be guided by my two colleagues step by step on how to access the HPC systems. We continue with our session, and the last presentation is presentation of my two colleagues, step-by-step guidelines how to access our EuroHPC systems. And I would like to pass the floor to Klara Mestrovic and Krishnakshi Bhuyan, who will give us the tutorial. So the floor is yours. I don't know who will be sharing the screen.
Yeah, I can start. Let me show my screen. Okay, I hope it's visible.
Great, thank you.
Okay. So hello everyone, and welcome to this last presentation of today's event. My name is Krishnakshi Bhuyan, and me and my colleague Klara Mestrovic, we are working on the peer review process of the different access calls of the joint undertaking. So put it simply, what this presentation is going to be about. You have already heard about the different machines that are already in place. So in this presentation, we will be talking about how one can gain access to these machines. So basically, how resources are offered to this machine, how as an applicant one can apply via the different calls, and what review process is in place for the applications to go through to gain access to the machines. So, okay, we will start with describing a little bit about the different calls for applications of EuroHPC that are already open for users to enable the users to gain access to allocation time in the machines. Although you have already heard a little bit from Vangelis and Lilith about it. So currently we have 4 calls for access, which are continuously open. We have the benchmark and development calls and the regular access and extreme scale call. We club benchmark and development together because they are preparatory calls giving resources for smaller time duration. So if someone wants lesser amount of resources and the decision of allocation is also faster for these calls. Then we have the bigger calls, which we call as production run calls, which offer resources in higher amount and the machines, and the duration of review is also a bit longer for these calls. And they follow a peer review process in order to give access time to the machines. As Vangelis mentioned, as we in the previous presentations, we have mentioned that the allocation or the time given on the machines are free of cost. So in order to be fair to all the applications that we receive, we follow a dedicated review process, which is specific per call type. And we will see it in a little bit more detail in the following slides. Starting with benchmark and development access. So the benchmark call is for scaling test and benchmark. So basically, in order for users to collect performance data on the target systems, we have these calls. The allocation duration is for 2 or 3 months. So this is the shortest duration that one can apply for. Then we have the development access call, which is for development of code and algorithm, and the users can apply for either 6 months or 12 months via these calls. And the eligibility remains same for all the calls. As was mentioned previously, the PI and team members should be from countries that are associated to Horizon 2020. So both these calls are continuously open with monthly cutoff. So an user can submit the application anytime during the year. And the resources that are offered via these calls are predefined. So basically, when an application form is filled in, as the user chooses the partition to which they would like to apply, the amount of resources that will be offered via the system is already predefined. So yeah, it will be set in the form already. Now coming to what review process the applications will go through once they submit their application in benchmark as well as development access call. It's rather a faster process than the production run calls. The proposals are submitted and then they go through an administrative check by the office. Once those proposals which are administratively approved, they would then pass to the technical assessment. And once the technical assessment is actually done by the experts from our centers, from the hosting entities, and those proposals which pass this technical assessment, they will then be allocated access to the system. So this is rather a very fast and faster process. Then moving on to the production calls. First is the regular access call, which is intended for projects that require larger amount of resources. And the review process for these calls are a little longer, which takes approximately 4 months. And again, the eligibility remains same. The PI and team members should be from the countries associated to Horizon 2020. And as the other calls of the JU, these calls are also continuously open. There are 3 cutoffs per year. One comes in March, one in July, and the last one for the year is in November. We just closed the March cutoff call, and next cutoff date is on 7th of July. If anyone is interested to put up an application, then there is still a lot of time. And via the regular access call, the resources are given on petascale and pre-exascale systems. Now we will move to describe a little bit about the peer review process that is in place for applications. So first, the proposals are submitted, and once the cutoff date is over, then they all go through an administrative check, which is done within 1 week's time by the office. The results of the administrative check are communicated to the applicants. So immediately the applicants come to know whether they have passed the administrative check or not. The administratively accepted proposals then go through technical assessment and scientific review. The technical assessment is again conducted by the experts from our centers. And for scientific review is done by the panel members, which consists of, we call them rapporteurs. So each proposal is then allocated or assigned to 2 rapporteurs from the panel. They would read the proposal and write a report on the proposal. Then based on the reports and like the scores and reports given by the rapporteurs, they are discussed in our domain panel meeting, which is specific per domain. So based on which domain the proposal belongs to, they are categorized and then they are discussed in individual domain panel meeting. Finally, all the proposals from each domain will be discussed in the super panel meeting, where they are given the final ranking to each proposal, and those proposals that are ranked in the super panel meeting, they go to the resource allocation panel meeting, where the final allocation of resources happen. So basically those that are above threshold, and if resources are available, they will be given resources in this RAP meeting. And finally, the EuroHPC governing board will be presented with the ranking list based on the decision of the committee. And once this is approved, we let the applicants know about the results, both to approved as well as rejected proposals. And those approved will be able to then gain access to the systems. So basically, this is the peer review process for regular access call. Next is the extreme scale call, which Clara will be describing. So Clara.
Yeah, thank you very much, and hello to everyone. So extreme scale access call. So as Chris already mentioned, these are bigger calls. So extreme scale is slightly more complicated than the regular access call. So it has a more extensive peer review process. But of course, it's intended for high impact, high gain projects, and they require extremely large HPC resources. So in comparison to the regular access, this peer review process lasts for 6 months. Well, the regular access is 4 months, which we can see that it's a slight difference there. Eligibility is again the same. We like to highlight this because there was some adoption regarding this, and then now this is a definite eligibility criterion. So principal investigators and team members from countries associated to Horizon 2020. So this is again a continuously open call with 2 cutoff dates per year, one late April, beginning of May, let's say, and October, beginning of November. So depends on the year, depends on the planning and other things. So the next cutoff, so yes, you can see April, and then we have May. So the next cutoff is now on 12th of May, 10 a.m. And this call offers resources only on pre-exascale systems, so the big machines. So the process is again starting with proposal submission before the cutoff date. After it, the projects proceed to the administrative check, which we perform. Those who are rejected, the line stops there, but of course they are welcomed to resubmit their projects. Those who proceed further then proceed to the technical assessment performed by our hosting entities. After which we have a scientific evaluation. So this is slightly different because the scientific evaluation is performed by external referees, which we target to have 3 per proposal. After these evaluations have been submitted, so both scientific and technical assessments, we open a response to reviews phase. So the applicants will have an opportunity to reply to any criticisms or just to thank the reviewers. Here is very important to note that the replies are very, very valued by our committee members and are taken into consideration in the final ranking. So it's not mandatory, but we highly advise to reply to reviews. After the responses have been submitted, all of this information, so the technical assessment, all the scientific reports, and the replies are again forwarded to the rapporteurs. So we have 2 rapporteurs per proposal, and then they write their individual reports. And then 2 of them write 1 consolidated report. So the proposal is again graded 3 times. All of this information then with the technical, scientific, and the rapporteur reports, all of these grades, everything comes into the ARC meeting, Access Resource Committee meeting, where we evaluate all the proposals in comparison to one another. So this is a slight difference from the regular access. Well, they are firstly discussed within a certain domain and then consolidated all together. Here we discuss them all together, and they are giving a final grade. And with this ranking, so from the best ranked proposal to the last, we proceed to the RAP meeting where we include these proposals and they are awarded resources, as Chris mentioned. Of course, after we have a GB ranking list adoption, and once this is done, we communicate the results to the applicants, and the successful applications can then access the systems. So just a brief overview, we are speaking about grading these proposals, so we would like to highlight how this actually works. So as mentioned, we have 3 access tracks, so scientific, industry, and public administration tracks. So in this case, for SMEs, what is the most important is the industry access track, which has a 20% reserve of the resources. So once they are evaluated, they will be the 20% of overall resources will be reserved for these proposals. Evaluation criteria falls under the 3 criteriums: excellence, innovation, impact, and quality and efficiency of the implementation. In case of the scientific proposals, the excellence is a guiding criterion. For industry and public administration proposals, innovation and impact is a guiding criterion, which just means that more weight is given to this criterion. Okay, the scoring system here. So we have grades 0 until 5 per criterion. Half points are also taken into consideration. In order to be successful, the applicants should get a minimum grade 3, but the overall per criterion, but the overall grade of all 3 criteria should be 10. And yeah, the maximum that you can get is 15. That's easy math. So it's not step-by-step guidance on how to apply, but it's an overview on that I will now proceed with this. So the application forms and documents needed for certain calls. So for benchmark and development, this is just a screenshot from our peer review platform. Basically, we have different tabs within the project application. So we will now speak just about this first, just the proposal itself. So the benchmark and development calls, basically the project application is the online submission form. So there are no additional documents needed. So you need to fill out this form. Basically, here we just see a brief overview of the first tab, which is the project, which includes general information about the project title, summary, and keywords. Here we need to specify the project. Parts of the project are confidential. Also to choose the research fields within which domain this project operates in, and the duration of the project as well. Here we need to, for benchmark and development, there is no specific access track per se, but here you can highlight that you have industrial involvement as a PI and team members and or. Furthermore, when we see other tabs here that you will need to fill in, it's basic information about principal investigator and team members, and also their organization details. Then moving on the technical part of the application, which is the partition selections. Here, there will be some questions related to the, of course, your requirements of this partition that you would want to select. So, and also resources request, but as Chris has mentioned, here we have predefined resources, so they will be automatically filled in once you fill in, once you choose the partition that you want to do your tests on. Here also some information about memory, data transfer, input and output are required to be filled in. Then what differentiates benchmark and development from regular access? No, go back. No. Sorry, thank you. So what differentiates benchmark and development and regular access and extreme scale access? Here we focus on code details, development and feasibility, because here you will be testing your codes or developing codes or algorithms. So basically here you will also need to provide information about scalability and performance and optimization of the work proposed. We can proceed to our big calls. For regular extreme scale access. We have slightly let's say more information needs to be provided in these application forms. So we again see just the first tab here, which is the project, but we will give an overview as well what needs to be provided. So within the project, there is a slight difference. Besides the general information about the project, we require information. We require to upload a proposal document, which we call the project scope and plan, but we will further also elaborate a little bit more on that. And basically, this is among the submitted information in the form. This is the main document that is evaluated within these calls. So here, the project scope and plan needs to be updated, and also here we do have the access tracks. So in your case, you would then choose the industry access track at the bottom. The other tabs are quite similar. So principal investigator and team members information is basic personal and contact information with organizational details. And the PIs will need to upload their track record, actually their CVs, there for the reviewers to be able to evaluate the feasibility somehow of the project, meaning in a personnel direction. Then again, we have partitions here. More information will be here. People can also request specific resources, but we have a minimum of resources that is predefined also. But of course, up from minimum to maximum, you can request freely depending on your project needs. There you will also need to provide information about storage, memory, jobs, input and output. For certain systems like Lumi, we have a special requirement for storage hours. So this we advise to, we provide the link there in the partitions tab, where you can check out actually what do you exactly need, which amount of storage hours would be suitable for you. After that, we also ask some description about the code's development, basically basic code description that you will want to use, and dissemination strategy if the project is successful, and collaboration and funding that is perhaps involved in your research and your project itself. Yes, so now a little bit about the project scope and plan. So we call it project scope and plan, which may not be that obvious that this is a proposal template. At least it wasn't for me when I started working. But this is the proposal template. Basically here, the PI and team members are required to provide detailed proposal information with overview of the project and resources request justification. So all sections and subsections here need to be filled in. So this is mandatory, except for the ones that say that they're optional. They need to provide information about the data management and performance of the software. So here on the left, we can see the weak and strong scaling examples. So these plots and tables can be obtained, of course, the information connected to your scaling can be provided from the benchmark access call. After that, also milestones and Gantt chart and personnel and management plan also need to be included in this proposal. Here below, we can see a table from the milestones section of the project, which is mandatory also to be filled in. Yeah, this is the brief overview of this. So basically how to apply. So we use the peer review platform currently provided by Praise. It's available on praisecalls.eu. This is just a screenshot from our open calls from proposals. And here are the links to log in or to register at. And I think that's it. Yes, thank you very much for your attention. Here are also our contact details in case you want to contact us. Thank you.
Thank you, Clara and Chris. So I guess with that, our event is coming to its end, and I see only one question. So Daniel, if you can answer this one, the last question. Is there any different peer review processes for FF for EuroHPC project if SME decide to use EuroHPC JU resources in its experiment?
So there are two options to use HPC resources within FF for EuroHPC, and one of them is to go through the usual access modes that we offer to everybody. So that what has just been explained, benchmarking access or developer access, etc. The other option is to pay for HPC resources. Now, EuroHPC currently does not offer pay per use of HPC. However, some of our HPC centers within their national share of the systems may be able to make such offers. And and there's also, of course, the option to pay for an HPC service from another provider as part of an FF for EuroHPC project. So there is a maximum of flexibility, and what I would recommend to any participant who was successful in FF for EuroHPC to speak to the experts that support you as part of this project from the HPC centers to identify the best option. And paying for HPC resources and therefore bypassing the peer review process is one of the options that are that is available in FFO EuroHPC.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think we have now went through all the information we wanted to tell to small and medium enterprises. And I would like to thank all of you that took the time and participated in our event. I would continue strongly encouraging to apply to these big possibilities, both for the HPC systems and also for the projects. And we are here to help you. And the national competence centers are our hands for you to give all the support you need. And the experts there are excellent experts with a lot of experience and can tackle any questions you have. And with that, I would like also to thank all my colleagues that took the time and presented these opportunities to SMEs. And you are always welcome to contact us. And thank you. Have a great day further on.